Hey everybody, it's Abby. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new, and thank you to my new subscribers. I've had quite a few new ones since the giveaways. Hopefully you guys stay subscribed and don't unsubscribe just because you didn't win the giveaway. Okay, today I'm going to redo a series about like makeup basics. So I'm just going to be using all vegan and cruelty-free products, of course. I'm going to try to stick with drugstore like I usually do. I'll have some higher end stuff that is really good. I don't actually own that much higher end makeup, so. But today I'm going to be going over the base products. So like primer, foundation, concealer, powder. That's about it. So I'm going to go through it over the next couple weeks, and actually might turn into like over a month. Just one video a week about the basics. So next week I'm going to do like bronzer, contour, blush, highlighter, like the colored face products, and then I'm going to do brows and I think just brows maybe in one video, and then like eyeshadow in one video, and then eyeliner and mascara in another one, and then lipstick and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. Let me know if you have any tips or any ideas about what I could include in those videos. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started with today's. So I'm going to be putting on a primer here in a second. I'll talk about that. But just while I have my glasses on, I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to be using a sponge for this. This is the Real Techniques, I believe it's called the Miracle Complexion Sponge. But I sometimes mistakenly refer to it as a beauty blender. A beauty blender is not the same as this. Beauty blender is its own brand. I think they have like maybe the original like makeup sponge that's kind of the shape. But the beauty blender, it has this end where it's pointy, but then it's completely round on the bottom, whereas this one has a flat edge. Which I've had both. I don't see any difference, so I just buy these because they're a lot cheaper. And then you could use, for foundation, a brush also. You just use a tiny bit less product with a brush. But if you have really dry skin, I would strongly suggest a sponge over a brush, because a brush can kind of accentuate dry spots. So the sponge, you do have to get them wet. So what I do is I will put it under the sink and squeeze it a few times to really get the water all the way through it, and then like squeeze it out really hard to get a lot of the excess water, and then I'll take my hand towel that's in the bathroom and kind of squeeze it a little bit in there just so it's not like too wet and it's not like making your makeup wet. Basically why you do that is because if it's not already wet, the product will just sink into it and you won't get any off on your skin. But if it's already, the sponge is already saturated, then it's just going to go off onto your skin. It's not going to, soak into the sponge and waste a whole bunch. So if you've tried using a makeup sponge and it doesn't work, that's probably why. And also, to clean them, this one looks dirty, but it is clean. I just cleaned it. It just kind of gets stained after a while from the foundation. So I use a bar of soap. You can use any unscented bar soap. I use the Dr. Bronner's brand, which is really hard now to find their unscented, but you can probably use a scented too if you're not like sensitive to fragrance. But I have it in a little like mini casserole dish in my sink, and I just get this wet and rub it on there, and then you squeeze it out and you'll see all the color from the makeup coming out, and then you just do that until you squeeze it and the water's clear and good to go. I just do that before I do my makeup. I don't like go back to the bathroom after I'm done. I just do it the next day. And then with this brush, this is my favorite brush to use for foundation. It's the EcoTools Wonder Cover Complexion Brush. So it's really dense and really flat and kind of skinny this way. A lot of foundation brushes are round. I don't know particularly why it's good that this one is flat, but I do use it for foundation and for concealer, because you can use the end of it right here, like under your eyes, to blend out your concealer. Actually, I have done makeup looks where I just use this one and a powder brush and like one eyeshadow brush, and that's the whole look. So I know Real Techniques has quite a few good foundation brushes. They have their Expert Face brush. I can't remember what the other ones are called at this moment, but they do have a few good ones. And I just got some new ones from EcoTools that are round like this, so I'll test those out and let you know in a future video about those. But yes, that's all you need to know about the foundation, and let's go ahead and get started. So today I'm using the e.l.f. Hydrating Face Primer. I like this one personally for my skin. I have combo, like some dry spots, some oily spots. And this one is a mixture of the two different kinds of primers. So there are like silicone based primers and there's water based primers. So silicone based primer is going to be better for if you have oily skin. It's going to smooth your pores because usually if you have oily skin you have large pores too. It smooths those over, makes your skin feel softer. But then like the water based are more hydrating for if you have dry skin. But this one is good for both because it has silicone and like a hydrating base to it. And it's super cheap because it's e.l.f. And e.l.f. has like both kinds too. They have this one and they have like the poreless primers, which those you just have to be careful and not use too much because they can make your makeup go on worse. And I just take a little bit on my finger, like not even that much, and put a little bit on my forehead and a little bit here. I just kind of concentrate it in the middle of my face because like this outer area of my cheeks and like the top of my forehead doesn't really it's not really affected by me being oily or dry or anything. It's just kind of normal. And then the foundation I'm going to use today is a Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. This one is a really good drugstore option. It does have a strong smell, so if you're sensitive to that, maybe don't go for this one. But I can deal with it. It's not that bad to me, like after a while. But this one, some foundations come with a pump, and most do, but this one has a little spatula thing. So I just scrape some off on the back of my hand. And don't get too much out all at once. You can certainly get more, but it's kind of wasteful to get too much, and then you can't really put it back because it's not sanitary. I'm going to take my sponge. If you want, you can use the flat side. I just use the longer round side of this one, or you can use the end of an actual beauty blender if you have one of those. And I'm just picking up some. This foundation, sometimes I go straight to my face, sometimes I go on the back of my hand, but it doesn't really matter. And then with these, you're not going to swipe. Actually, with a brush too, I wouldn't swipe, but just lightly pat it and blend it out over your face and then kind of onto your chin. It depends. If you have a really good match, you can stop, like just not make it not a harsh line, but you can kind of stop on your chin. But if your foundation isn't really that great of a match, or if you're tanned or not tan, then I would bring it down your neck more. Then I go a little bit over my lips just because I get some redness around there. And then I avoid up under my eyes because I'm going to put concealer there later. And make sure you get in your nose where the fold is. Sometimes you can miss that, and that area does get red, so it looks funny. And then make sure you go up, same with, down your neck. Make sure you go like kind of close to your hairline. Some people put it on their ears. I don't put makeup on my ears. That just grosses me out. So if you want to, you can. Get a little bit more now because I didn't get enough for my forehead. If I'm using a foundation that has a pump, normally like 2 to 3 pumps is enough for me, and maybe more or less if you want more coverage or less coverage. Even if you have a super full coverage foundation, like something that's really thick, you can it's really easy to shear it out if you're using a sponge. Just use like 1 or 2 pumps and really spread it out. Because I just think it's easier to blend because the sponge is a little wet and it kind of makes it go farther than a brush where you're just kind of smearing it. I can try to go like a little bit over my brows, especially today because I just pluck them so they can get a little red. And then I wear glasses, so I try to mostly avoid my nose bridge area, but if you don't wear glasses or you're not going to wear sunglasses, then you can go over it. And then if you're kind of noticing that you have some red spots or whatever, then you can go a little bit back over it with the foundation or add concealer later. I'm just going to do a little more right here. Just don't do that too much because then it'll start to cake up. For concealer, so you want to make sure that your concealer at least is the same shade as your foundation, if not a little lighter. It's okay if it's lighter. Mine usually is, which is a new thing for me. Usually, like, it's impossible to find a lighter shade than I am already. But thanks to a few, like, brands and, like, people raising awareness for, like, more inclusive shades, for the darker end, they've also added shades into the lighter end. So I'm happy about both. But this one has an amazing range of shades. This is a Cover FX Power Play Concealer. It's fairly new. I just got it not too long ago. The most expensive concealer I've bought in a while. Wet n Wild has concealers, and I'm trying to think who else has good ones. ColourPop. Yes, ColourPop has some. They're not my absolute favorite, but they do have a lot of different shades. So with the concealer, I put a little bit under my eyes. Just don't go too much because your under eyes can crease. And then I just kind of dot it like that. Had their Cover FX custom cover drops. Basically they're little, like, really thin but really, really pigmented liquid makeup that you can mix in with other foundations to make it, change the shade or whatever, add more coverage. And I used the shade, I based my purchase of this off of the shade that I had in those, but I thought they were a little too dark, so I went like a shade lighter, and I think this is like a little bit too light. Like if I got a foundation this light, it would be a little too much. But we'll see. I want to get the Power Play foundation, but Ulta doesn't carry it. And I prefer shopping at Ulta over Sephora because they're points. I have quite a bit racked up right now. But, so you can, I learned this trick from a YouTuber named Jackie Ina, and she, like, leaves the concealer on under her eyes just a little bit longer. I mean, just be careful. Some concealers can dry fast, some don't. But if you leave it a little bit longer, it makes it fuller coverage for some reason. It's crazy. But I'm going to use the pointy end of the sponge and gently, like more gently than the rest of your face, pat that in and get it right up under your lashes, just not in your actual eyeball like I've done quite a few times. And then I blend it up and out this way. And then you blend it down too, just to kind of mix that with the foundation that's already there. Some people put this like over their eyelid, but I don't. It's just personal preference. And a lot of people freak out when they have a concealer that creases under their eyes, but if you look at your under eyes, they have lines in them. So the concealer is going to settle into those lines no matter what. And the best, most expensive concealer, you're not going to be able to avoid that entirely. So but some are better than others, so some might crease as soon as you put them on, and some it's only after a couple hours, but yeah, just don't freak out. Okay, and then now you really should set your under eyes, just that helps it not crease so fast. So the way I do it is probably different than maybe the way you want to, but it's totally up to you. So sometimes I will take a little brush. I don't have to bring it with me, but Real Techniques has an under eye setting brush. I'll put a picture here so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. Just a small, not really like a big foundation or a big powder brush, but a really smaller one that's kind of lighter. And you can take a translucent powder and pat it underneath of your eye, and then you use like a different face powder throughout the rest of your face, or use the same one. Sometimes I do both. It doesn't matter. And just be careful that there are some translucent powders, like when you look at the pan, they look white. You want to avoid those underneath of your eyes, or just do them very, very lightly, because it'll like reflect the light too much and it'll look like you have a white spots under your eyes. One that I've found that doesn't do that is the Milani Prep Set and Glow Illuminating Transparent Powder. So this is not shimmery like a highlighter or anything, and it is going to set your under eyes or your face or whatever you want to do with it. However, if you do have a deeper skin tone or more tan than I am, then this may not work for you. I've never seen anybody with a darker skin tone try it, so if you know of anybody who's tried this that has a darker skin tone, let me know so I can know not to recommend it if it doesn't work. So, but this is the way that I like to do it, so I will put that on my face, but today I'm going to do it a different way. And I'm going to use this ColourPop No Filter setting powder. They do have different, I'm pretty sure they have different shades of this. I got the translucent one, but they have ones for like for deeper skin, which is awesome. So when you open it, I'm not going to like turn it over because it's going to dump out, but there's a lot. Some of these have a little poo for like some of these have a little poo for a sifter thing so that you don't get all the powder. It's not as a little sifter, but it's just the powder's kind of everywhere, so be careful when you open these. And I'm actually going to take my my sponge directly into that. It is wet. I'm using powder on it. I know it's going to work out in the end, trust me. So I'm just taking a tiny bit, like barely touching it into the powder once. Don't like dig it around. And I'm going to pat that on my under eyes. And it's going to look a little weird at first. Dip back in if it's not enough. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some YouTubers go crazy with this, but I just do it a little bit and it looks fine. And then I'm going to take that Milani powder and set the rest of my face. And I'm using this EcoTools powder brush. This has been discontinued, I'm pretty sure, but just use any powder brush that you want. I just haven't found a replacement that I like as much as this one, and it's still holding up. So I'm taking that powder and patting it over. So I pat it like kind of under where I put the under eye powder, and then now I'm going to go back and sweep that excess away. And then keep going. You don't have to set your whole face like this if you don't want to, but I do just because I don't like that tacky feeling of the foundation, especially one that doesn't dry matte. And especially if you're oily, you might want to powder a little bit. But that's the trend now, is like dewier skin, so do whatever you think is best. Again, with the powder, don't drag it or like go in circles, because that can lift up your like any dead skin that you might have, and yeah, that's not good. So just pat it. And you see, I don't know if this camera is not that HD, but under my eyes it is like slightly creasing just a little bit, but that's totally normal. Like, that's what my under eyes look like. It's not gonna make them look like you've had Botox. So you know, there is the base all done. Then from here you can move on to your blush, bronzer, all that fun stuff. You can also use a setting spray at this point, but I wait until I'm done with the rest of my face makeup to do that. And my favorite one at the moment is the Milani Make It Last setting spray. But I'll talk about that, I guess, in the next video. Let me know what you think if you have any questions. I am not a professional makeup artist. I probably do things differently than your beauty gurus, like the big ones, you know who I'm talking about. But that's, you have to figure out on your own what works for you, because what works for me and what works for Jaclyn Hill probably not gonna work for you. But if you combine aspects of both, or from other people, or tips and tricks that you've found on your own, then you'll find something that works for you, a routine that works for you. And you're not gonna have the same, where I had that foundation on my hand, I just went like that. But you know, you're not, like, everybody's skin is different. Even if we both may have oily combo skin, what works for you might not work for me. And if a makeup product works for me but not for you, then it doesn't mean it's, you know, that my opinion's wrong and your opinion's wrong. It's just different people are different. So I think that's all I have to say about that. Let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions for future videos or things that you specifically want me to go over about each one. I have been doing my own makeup for a long time, so I might kind of like assume that you know things, or assume, you know, that you've seen other people show you these kind of things. So also I might do like different types of foundations, because I did a liquid foundation in this one, and I have some powders and some cream, like stick foundations. So let me know if you want to see a video like about the different kinds. And yeah, that's about it. So thanks so much for watching. If you're not ready, please subscribe so don't miss any future videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.